3 weeks. That's all it took. 3 agonizingly long weeks, each day stretching on, filled with an unbearable weight of doubt and confusion. The story you're about to hear is not for the faint of heart. There's no gentleness in it, only raw, painful truths. It's a story that begins with a man named Harry, a man who longed only for love, who dreamed of finding that one connection that would make him whole. But what he found instead was something far darker, a past hidden away that was never meant to be uncovered. Harry's quest for love spiraled into something far more complicated, leading him to uncover the very truths that would tear apart everything he thought he knew about the woman he married. And all of it began with one fleeting moment, a small, seemingly insignificant detail, something so ordinary and unremarkable that at first he thought it didn't matter. But that detail, buried beneath the surface, carried a weight so heavy, so profound, that it held the power to dismantle the entire life he had built, to shatter the illusion of the perfect relationship he thought he shared. It was the kind of truth that could never be erased once seen, a truth that would forever alter the course of his life. This is how it all started. A single moment, a fleeting observation that would change everything Harry believed he knew about his wife, and ultimately about himself. Let's take a step back just for a moment to understand why this mattered so deeply to Harry, why it gnawed at him, pulled him in, and wouldn't let him go. It was as if the universe had cast a long shadow over his peace of mind, and this photo from Croatia was the source of it all. Harry couldn't quite explain why he couldn't stop staring at that picture. It had already been 3 weeks since the yacht photos had gone viral online, since the images first surfaced, igniting gossip and speculation. The world had moved on, as the world always does, but Harry, he couldn't. That simple snapshot, an innocent image shared by his wife, seemed like nothing more than a passing moment, yet to him it had become an obsession. It wasn't just the photo anymore. It was the feeling that had settled into the pit of his stomach, a strange, nagging sensation that something wasn't right, that something important had been hidden from him. No matter how hard he tried to shake it off, the feeling only grew stronger. He would find himself alone in the room, his eyes once again drifting to the screen, the image calling to him like a siren's song. He zoomed in, his eyes darting over every tiny detail, trying to catch something, anything, that might make sense of the unease churning inside him. He would zoom out, trying to see the broader context, but the discomfort remained, lurking beneath the surface. He would walk away, attempting to distract himself with other tasks, but before long he would return, pulled back into the same haunting cycle. His eyes would fixate once more, as if the photo held the answers to questions he hadn't yet formulated. It was as if he was chasing a phantom, something so elusive that no matter how hard he tried, it slipped just out of reach. The obsession began to consume him. Hours would pass in what felt like minutes. He'd look at the picture again and again, as if expecting something to reveal itself, something hidden just beneath the surface. There was a persistent feeling that the image was trying to tell him something he needed to see, but it was just out of his grasp, like a whisper that would fade before he could fully hear it. Every time he thought he was close to understanding, it slipped away, leaving him more frustrated, more anxious, more determined to solve the puzzle. He could feel it, a creeping suspicion that there was more to this picture than anyone had told him, that something was being kept from him. It wasn't just a picture. It was a key, and he needed to unlock what it was hiding. But no matter how hard he stared, no matter how many times he returned to it, the truth remained out of reach. The harder he tried, the more the image seemed to mock him, like a secret it refused to share. Then, one night, something shifted. His eyes, already weary from hours of searching, caught a detail he had never noticed before. It was so small, so insignificant at first glance, that it could easily have been overlooked. But this time, Harry's gaze locked onto it. There, on the yacht's deck, pushed off to the side, almost hidden in plain sight, was a small navy blue canvas bag. It wasn't extravagant, nothing ostentatious about it. It didn't scream for attention. In fact, it seemed almost deliberately overlooked, as though someone had placed it there with the intention of it blending in with the surrounding clutter. The kind of bag anyone could own, something so simple that it almost didn't matter. But then, as Harry's eyes traced the gold lettering on the front of the bag, A chill ran down his spine. Soho House. The words hit him like a physical blow. The name, the brand, everything about it was a presence, a powerful, almost oppressive force. Soho House wasn't just a name. It was an institution, a members-only club, an elite sanctuary that Meghan had been a part of for years. It was a place where the world of power, wealth, and influence converged, and where every whispered conversation carried weight. Harry's heart seemed to stop for a second as the implications of what he had just seen settled in. This wasn't just any yacht. This wasn't some random luxury getaway. This was a Soho House yacht. The kind of yacht owned by people with connections, the kind of people Harry had always been kept away from. It was like a door opening to a world he hadn't known existed, a world his wife had been living in long before they'd ever met. For a moment, everything around him seemed to blur. His mind raced, scrambling to make sense of it. It wasn't just the bag. It wasn't just the name. It was the realization that something very real was hidden in plain sight, right in front of him. The photo, the yacht, the bag, they all meant more than he had ever imagined. And now, suddenly, it felt as if his entire perception of Meghan, of their life together, had been turned upside down. Harry's stomach tightened, his pulse quickened. This was no longer just a coincidence. There was something far more significant happening here, something he wasn't prepared to understand, but something he couldn't ignore any longer. Harry's stomach churned, a heavy knot tightening within him. This wasn't just any luxurious yacht. No, this was a Soho House yacht. The words reverberated in his mind, each one sinking deeper into his gut. Soho House. That name, once something he thought of as just a part of Meghan's world, a place she frequented in her glamorous social circle, was now something far more sinister. It wasn't just an exclusive club. It was the exclusive, members-only club, a symbol of power and influence that had been woven into the fabric of Meghan's life for years. The kind of place where connections were made, deals were brokered, and every whisper carried weight. Every dinner, every conversation held the potential to change lives, to shape futures. It was a world Harry had never fully understood, and now, standing at the edge of it, he felt the weight of that realization crashing over him. What had once seemed like a mere coincidence, the yacht, the bag, the casual detail, suddenly didn't feel random at all. The threads were starting to come together, forming a tapestry he had been blind to. His chest tightened with a cold, suffocating pressure as the truth slowly crept up on him. Every instinct in his body screamed that this was no accident, that this detail wasn't just a fleeting moment or an odd coincidence. No, this meant something far bigger than he had anticipated. He couldn't unsee it now, couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling deep inside him that something had been hidden, deliberately, meticulously hidden from him. Harry knew, deep in his bones, that he wouldn't rest until he understood what this all meant. The question hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating him with its weight. What had he missed? What had Meghan kept from him? And what was his role in this web of power, influence, and secrecy that he was just beginning to unravel? His hands trembled uncontrollably as he reached for the keyboard, each finger feeling heavy, as if weighed down by an invisible force. With a shaky breath, Harry opened a new tab, the familiar glow of the screen casting a stark light on his face. His mind raced, but there was only one thing he could focus on: the names he was about to type. His fingers hovered for a moment, hesitant before they moved, typing the three names that had now become inextricably linked in his mind. Names that had once seemed harmless, even mundane, but now felt tainted with suspicion. Soho House, Marcus Anderson, Meghan Markle. As soon as he pressed enter, the search results began to load, each new line of text filling the screen like a sinister countdown. Harry felt a chill spread through his body, starting in his chest and slowly creeping down to his limbs. It was a coldness that seemed to seep into his very bones, the kind that comes when you realize you've stepped into something far darker than you ever expected. The screen flickered before his eyes, and as the results appeared, his heart pounded in his ears, drowning out all other sound. What he found was not what he had anticipated. It wasn't just a few articles or photos, it was something far more disturbing. A web of connections, hidden associations, and whispered truths that stretched back far beyond what Harry could have ever imagined. The words jumped out at him: sharp and jarring. Marcus Anderson's name was everywhere, but not in the way Harry had ever thought. He wasn't just a friend of Meghan's. He was something far more dangerous, an architect, manipulator, someone deeply embedded in a world Harry had never been invited into. The truth that unfolded before him shattered the image he had carefully constructed of his wife, his marriage, and everything he had believed to be true. Harry's breath caught in his throat as he realized what this meant. The weight of it all pressed down on him, making the world seem smaller, tighter, and impossibly colder. Every detail he'd overlooked now seemed glaring, and in that moment, he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Marcus Anderson, Meghan's quirky friend from Toronto, the effortlessly charming guy who was always at the center of social gatherings, the one who had seemed harmless enough, a friendly face among the glittering crowds. Harry had always seen him as just another part of Meghan's world, a familiar figure at their events, a constant presence with a quick smile and a sharp sense of style. But what Harry uncovered in that moment shattered everything he thought he knew about the man. Marcus wasn't the easygoing socialite he appeared to be. No, the truth was far darker, far more calculated. He was far more than just a friend, far more than a casual partygoer. Marcus was the puppet master of a vast, intricate network, a behind-the-scenes figure who pulled the strings in a world of power, wealth, and privilege. What Harry discovered painted a chillingly different picture. Marcus wasn't simply a socialite trying to fit in. He was an access broker, the kind of man who connected ambitious, beautiful women with the world's most powerful men. His role wasn't just to be seen at glamorous events or to offer witty conversation. Marcus orchestrated those very events. He didn't simply attend parties, he was the architect of them. Every guest, every interaction, every detail was carefully curated to serve a larger purpose. He wasn't a participant in the world of elite socialites. He was the one who made sure that world turned. And the women who passed through his orbit, they weren't just friends or acquaintances. They were his projects, carefully selected and groomed to climb the social ladder with the right connections, the right men, and the right opportunities. Harry's stomach churned as he realized that Marcus wasn't just Meghan's friend. He wasn't just another charming face in their circle. Marcus was something far more insidious. He was a guide into an elite world, a world Meghan had been fully immersed in long before Harry came into the picture. And that world, Harry now realized, was one he had never truly known. Not in the way he thought, not in the way he had ever imagined. Heart-pounding, Harry leaned back in his chair, the weight of the discovery sinking in, pressing on him from all sides. His mind raced, each thought spiraling faster than the last. How had he never questioned Marcus's presence? How had he never stopped to wonder why Marcus was always there, so close, so ingrained in their lives, always in the background, never far from reach? His heart sank as the truth hit him like a ton of bricks. How had he never noticed that Marcus had always seemed to have a front row seat at the most intimate moments of their lives? At their wedding, front and center like a trusted confidant, while Harry had been none the wiser. The whispering conversations that seemed to happen just out of earshot, the way Marcus always seemed to be lurking, watching, always aware of everything happening around him, always in the thick of it, but never quite of it. Harry felt a deep flush of embarrassment spread across his chest. How had he not seen it? The subtle ways Marcus had maneuvered his way into their lives, into their most private moments. The way he had always been just a little too close for comfort, just a little too involved in a world Harry thought was his alone to navigate. It was all so clear now. The strange familiarity Marcus had with every event, the way he could seamlessly blend into their world, never out of place, always observing, always controlling. Harry had been blind to it. The discomfort he had always felt, the nagging feeling that something was off, that something was wrong, had been there all along, but he had brushed it aside. Now, with the truth unraveling in front of him, it all felt like a cruel joke, a game he'd never been invited to play, yet had been forced to participate in from the very start. How had he not seen it? How had he let this man into his life, into Meghan's life, into their marriage, without ever once questioning his motives? But the realization hit him even harder, like a sudden punch to the gut that knocked the air from his lungs. His mind raced, unable to settle, as one thought kept pounding in his head, growing louder with each passing second. What if Marcus wasn't just Meghan's friend? What if the man who had seemed so harmless, so friendly, was actually something far more sinister? What if Marcus wasn't just a quirky socialite who loved to attend fancy parties but her handler? The word sent a shock through Harry's entire body. Handler. The word felt foreign, chilling, yet somehow it made everything fall into place. What if Marcus wasn't just an innocent bystander in Meghan's life, but a calculated force, someone pulling strings behind the scenes, directing her every move, positioning her where he needed her to be? What if Harry had been nothing more than a pawn in a larger, more intricate game, a game he hadn't even known he was playing? The idea was absurd, horrifying, yet it made a strange kind of sense. Marcus had been too close for comfort, too involved, too omnipresent in their lives for Harry to have missed something so vital. And now, in the dark silence of his room, Harry realized the horrifying possibility. Meghan, the woman he loved, might not have been making her own choices. She might have been following a carefully constructed plan, a blueprint designed by Marcus, to climb her way up into the circles of power and wealth. What if everything about their relationship, their love story, had been orchestrated long before Harry even entered the picture? What if he was nothing more than a stepping stone in a game Meghan had been playing all along? Harry clicked on another link, his hands trembling as the page loaded. It was an old photo collection from Toronto's high society scene, a part of Meghan's past he'd never really thought to investigate. He scrolled through the images, at first barely registering the faces, the events, the lavish parties. But as he dug deeper, something in his gut twisted. Each photo, each fleeting moment captured in time, seemed to pulse with a sense of foreboding, as though the past was reaching out to him, demanding to be seen. The more he looked, the clearer it became. These weren't just old social snapshots. They were pieces of a puzzle that was beginning to form an image he didn't want to see. For the next 6 hours, Harry was consumed by the images, the timelines, the strange overlaps, details that now felt like clues he had never noticed before. Faces he recognized, names he'd heard in passing, but they were all part of something far bigger than he'd ever imagined. Each connection, each tiny thread pulled him further down a rabbit hole he couldn't escape. The more he uncovered, the more his world tilted on its axis. The wife he thought he knew, the life they had shared, began to unravel in front of him, piece by piece. He wanted to deny it, to convince himself that he was overthinking it, that these were just coincidences, just innocent overlaps. But the more he examined the images, the intimate dinners, the familiar faces, the ties to people he had never questioned, the more the truth pressed against him, suffocating him. His mind screamed for him to stop, to turn away, to believe in the illusion he had built around his marriage. But deep down, he knew it was already too late. The cracks had already formed and there was no going back. Then, unable to push it aside any longer, Harry picked up the phone. His fingers dialed the number of a former Soho House member, someone who knew that world better than anyone. He knew this was the call he had to make, even if it meant confirming the worst of his fears. The phone rang. When the man answered, Harry's voice barely made it past his lips. "I need to ask you about Marcus Anderson." The silence on the other end of the line stretched long, thick with tension. Then came the sigh, the moment Harry had been dreading. For the next 40 minutes, the truth he had feared would be confirmed poured out of the speaker. The truth that shattered the fragile hope Harry had been clinging to, the hope that maybe, just maybe, this was all some misunderstanding, some twisted coincidence. But it was all real. And the revelation of just how deeply Marcus Anderson had been embedded in Meghan's life, and in his own, brought the weight of everything crashing down on him. Late that night, when the house was quiet and Meghan slept soundly beside him, Harry couldn't escape the gnawing feeling deep in his chest. His mind was a whirlwind of unanswered questions, of suspicions he couldn't ignore any longer. The weight of the truth he had uncovered, the truth he wasn't ready to face, pressed down on him like a suffocating blanket. As Meghan's steady breathing filled the room, Harry felt more alone than ever, consumed by a sense of betrayal and confusion. He knew there was only one thing left to do. He picked up his phone, his fingers shaking as he dialed the number of someone he hadn't spoken to in years, someone from a life he thought he had left behind. A former Soho House member from his London party days, a man who had seen it all, who knew the ins and outs of the world Harry was only just beginning to understand. This man was a bridge to a reality Harry had never fully grasped, a reality he was now desperate to understand. The phone rang, each second stretching into eternity. Harry's breath caught in his throat. When the man finally answered, Harry could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. His heart raced as he tried to steady himself to gather his thoughts. He needed to know the truth. But when he spoke, his voice came out barely above a whisper, barely a breath at all. "I need to ask you about Marcus Anderson." The silence that followed was deafening. It felt like the world had stopped turning for just a moment. And then, finally, the man's voice broke through the stillness. A sigh heavy with the weight of the knowledge Harry had been dreading. For the next 40 minutes, Harry listened as the truth he had feared began to unfold, layer by painful layer. The revelation shattered what was left of the illusion he had been holding onto, the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, he had been wrong. But he wasn't wrong. And the darkness of what he now understood threatened to consume him completely. "I need to ask you about Marcus Anderson." The words left Harry's mouth, but they felt foreign, almost unreal. The phone seemed to stretch the silence between them as though the world itself was holding its breath. On the other end, the quiet was suffocating, thick with hesitation. Then, at last, came the sigh. A long, tired exhale that carried with it the weight of secrets buried deep within that Harry was not prepared to hear. The man's voice came next, steady but laced with something darker. "You really want to know?" Harry's throat tightened, but he nodded anyway, even though the other person couldn't see him. "Yes, tell me everything." And for the next 40 minutes, the truth was laid bare in a way that Harry could never have anticipated. Marcus Anderson, the friendly face who had always seemed harmless, was not just another well-connected socialite. No, he was far more insidious. Marcus wasn't merely involved in the circles Harry had once thought of as glamorous. He wasn't just a name in a crowd. He was the architect of an entire system, a carefully constructed network built on ambition, power, and manipulation. He didn't just introduce people, he positioned them. He sought out women with a drive to climb, women with dreams too big to ignore. But instead of letting them find their way, he shaped them, molded them into something he could use. He taught them everything: how to dress, how to speak, how to blend seamlessly into rooms filled with powerful people without ever standing out. Marcus didn't just give them opportunities, he gave them access. He gave them the keys to the rooms where the decisions were made, the doors to the places where their ambitions could finally breathe. He introduced them to men who could open those doors, the kinds of doors that could change lives, that could elevate them to a world most people would never even dream of entering. The more the man spoke, the more Harry's sense of reality began to crumble. What he thought he knew about Meghan, about Marcus, about their world had been a carefully constructed illusion. The life he had been living, the love he had thought was real, now felt like a carefully orchestrated performance. And he had been an unwitting player in it all. Harry sat frozen, his body rigid as the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place, one after another, with a sharp clarity that left him breathless. It was as if the world he had been living in, his entire reality, had suddenly split open, revealing the truth hiding beneath the surface. Marcus hadn't just been a casual figure in the background, a familiar face at events. No, he had been everywhere, at the polo matches, the charity galas, the lavish soirees, all the events that Harry had attended, all the moments he thought were his own. But now, looking back with fresh eyes, he saw it. Marcus was always there. Always in the background, always lurking just out of reach, always close enough to observe, to influence, to control. And Meghan, she wasn't just part of that world. She hadn't simply stumbled into it, didn't just casually become part of the circles Harry thought they were navigating together. No, Meghan had been positioned in that world long before Harry came along. She had been carefully placed, groomed, and guided into this intricate web of power and privilege that he had never truly seen. Harry had been blind to it, caught up in the idea of their love and the story he thought they were writing together. But the truth now sat in front of him, undeniable and harsh. Meghan wasn't just a passive participant. She had been a key player in a much larger, much darker game, one where Marcus held the cards, and Harry had unwittingly stepped right into it. His mind spun, reeling from the discovery, as his once clear vision of their life together began to shatter. Every moment, every conversation, every intimate memory now felt tainted by this truth. He had been living in a carefully constructed illusion, and Marcus and Meghan had been the architects. Harry's chest tightened as the weight of the truth settled on him, suffocating him with its cold, unforgiving reality. The sinking feeling in Harry's stomach grew heavier, more suffocating, as the truth about Meghan's lavish lifestyle began to unravel before him. His mind raced as he pieced together the puzzle, her constant flights between cities, the designer clothes that seemed to multiply, the perfectly curated wardrobe for every event, every gala, every photo op. The Soho House memberships, plural, in multiple cities, scattered across the globe like invisible threads connecting her to an elite world Harry had never been invited into. He'd always assumed she was simply living the life she had earned, working hard, making her own way. But now, with every fact that surfaced, every new detail that emerged, it became painfully clear. Nothing added up. Her salary, what he knew of it, couldn't possibly cover the life she was living. There was no way her modest income, earned from television appearances and whatever else she had done, could support the endless flights, the endless shopping sprees, the five-star hotels, the extravagant events. Everything she had, everything she'd shown the world came with a price, and that price wasn't something she could afford on her own. The pieces were falling into place, each one heavier than the last, each one deeper in its betrayal. Harry's heart pounded in his seat. Hest, as the truth crashed into him like a freight train. Someone had been funding her rise. Someone had been underwriting this new world she was suddenly a part of, the world of the powerful, the connected, the elite. It wasn't her success. It wasn't her hard work. It was something far more calculated. Someone had been behind it all, someone who had been helping her climb the social ladder, helping her become exactly who she was now. A global socialite, a carefully crafted figure in a world where every move was choreographed. And then, like a lightning bolt striking him in the chest, Harry realized who it was. He hadn't wanted to face it, hadn't wanted to see the truth that was staring him in the face, but it was impossible to ignore any longer. The source of it all, the funding, the access, the transformation, was Marcus. Marcus had been the one behind it all, the one who had paid for everything. Every flight, every designer dress, every membership, every connection. He was the puppet master, pulling the strings behind the scenes, while Harry had been none the wiser, blinded by love, too caught up in the illusion of their life together to question where the money was really coming from. The weight of that realization hit Harry like a punch to the gut, leaving him gasping for air as everything he thought he knew about Meghan and their life together came crashing down around him. The truth hit Harry with brutal clarity, crashing through him like a tidal wave. Meghan hadn't just been chosen for who she was, for the woman he had fallen in love with. No, that wasn't the truth at all. Meghan had been carefully crafted, molded, and positioned by someone far more calculating, far more insidious than Harry had ever imagined. She wasn't a free spirit who had found her way into his life by chance. She had been trained to fit a certain mold, to embody the image of someone who belonged in a world of power, wealth, and privilege. Every decision she made, every move she took, had been orchestrated, planned, and executed with precision. She was a product of this world, shaped by those who had invested in her rise, and Harry was just another piece of the puzzle. The crushing realization slammed into him like a physical blow. He wasn't the one Meghan had fallen for, not really. He wasn't the man who had captured her heart, the one she had chosen to build a life with. No, he was simply the final prize in a long, carefully orchestrated plan, a culmination of everything Marcus and others had worked toward. Harry was the one who had been positioned in her life, positioned in her world, the perfect companion to complete the picture. He was the last step in the strategy, the man who could provide the final validation, the man who could push her even further into the social elite, the man who could solidify her place among the powerful. The life he thought they had shared, the love he thought they had built together, wasn't real, not in the way he had believed. It was all part of a grand illusion, a facade crafted to perfection with every detail curated for the world to see. He had been living in a story carefully written by someone else, and now, as the truth unfolded before him, it was impossible to deny. Everything, every smile, every shared moment, every promise, had been a carefully designed performance, and Harry had been the unwitting actor. The foundation of their relationship was a lie, and the weight of that lie pressed down on him, suffocating him with its enormity. Now, Harry couldn't escape the truth. It was inescapable, like a shadow that clung to him, dark and unyielding, no matter how hard he tried to outrun it. He couldn't unsee what he had discovered, couldn't erase the images and facts that had flooded his mind. The pieces were all there, fitting together in a cruel, undeniable pattern, and now that the veil had been lifted, there was no going back. The life he thought he had, the life he had built with Meghan, the love he had believed was real, had all been a carefully constructed illusion. His world, once familiar and safe, now felt foreign, like a house built on sand, collapsing under the weight of truth. His entire life, every choice, every moment he had cherished had been rewritten behind his back, as if the very fabric of his reality had been manipulated by unseen hands. The truth, so raw and painful, gnawed at him from the inside out. The life he had known, the dreams, the plans, the memories, were all tainted by a deception so deep, so pervasive, that it shattered him to his core. And now, as he stared into the abyss of what had been hidden from him, he knew, with a finality that cut through him like a blade, that nothing would ever be the same again. Every thought, every feeling, every ounce of trust he had once placed in Meghan now seemed hollow, a mere echo of a love that had never truly existed. He had been a pawn in a game he never even knew he was playing. And with that crushing realization, the weight of his loss pressed down on him. The world he had once believed in no longer made sense. The walls around him, once solid and comforting, were now crumbling, leaving him exposed, alone in a reality he hadn't chosen, a reality that felt like a nightmare he couldn't wake from. This is just the beginning of the story. If you've ever wondered what happens when trust is shattered and the truth is too painful to ignore, then hit that subscribe button and join us as we continue unraveling the secrets hidden behind every perfect image. Don't miss out on the shocking truths coming next. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do if you discovered the truth about your partner? I want to hear from you.